Ahoy and welcome. This is Admiral. A great name goes a long way. While AoE2's historical leader names don't influence the personalities or strengths of the bots they're randomly assigned to, interesting as that could be, they can still lend a small but flavorful sense of character to those AI players. But of course some heroes have more aura than others, and I've always had a strong preference for the more majestic and intimidating names for both allies and enemies, to the point that as a kid playing against the AI, I sometimes used to restart skirmish games if the collective computer ally or opponent names didn't meet a certain coolness threshold. Why risk the Empire's success on dubious alliances with the bungling Aethelred the Unready, or trust in the mealy-mouthed Michael the Stammerer, when I might instead fight alongside Magnus the Strong, or bask in the uncanny wisdom of Oleg the Seer? By the same token, I wanted worthy adversaries, and there was little glory to be had in bullying Pipon the Short, or poaching Smoking Squirrel. I am become Death, destroyer of squirrels, isn't half the boast as being able to say that you bested Barbarossa, or slew Samaratunga. So today we'll be counting down my top 10 favorite AI names in AoE2. Not necessarily those who were the most powerful or impactful historically, and undoubtedly biased by my Anglophone ears, but just those that I think have the greatest sounding names for friend or foe, and potentially considering any relevant etymological lore. The only rule I'll impose is a maximum of one name per civilization. Let's get into it. Starting off at number 10 is a leader of the Britons. Unfortunately, we can't have the AI select the Dark Knight as our ally, or face off against the Prince of Darkness, but we can get a similar vibe with the Black Prince. In this type of video, I'm less concerned about whether Edward's appellation ultimately comes from possible black armor or heraldry, or from a fierce reputation among his enemies, although by all accounts he was an accomplished English warrior and leader. In any case, the designation of the Black Prince shines through the haze of history and paints an image of a shadowy yet powerful royal who can lead his longbowmen to victory. Ninth place goes to a Viking ruler, namely Chief Thorgest. While his rank isn't as impressive as some on this list, he sounds like he makes up for it with pure brawn and ever-renewed vitality. Even having a name that is only half Thor seems to reliably confer legendary strength down to the present day. While his name lacks the one-dimensional brutality of someone like Eric Bloodaxe, there's no question that Chief Thorgest can still go berserk and bring down the hammer on land or sea to the thunderous destruction of his foes. My choice for 8th place goes to Mansa Musa, ruler of the Mali Empire. Not only was he legendarily auriferous, but his admirably alliterative name is simply Auriferous. Malians have some other great leader names, including Sundiata and his general, Tiramakan, but I had to give this one to Musa. As an ally, I imagine him ever responsive to your requests for
gold, please.
And as an enemy, a fruitful but formidable target whose rich plunder can fund your ambitions for many years, if you can defeat him. 7th place was a hard call. Japanese is notable for having a rather pleasant sound to many Western ears, is less prone to butchery than some other Asian languages, and generally lends itself well to great names, so it was inevitable that one such name would appear on this list. I considered Saito Do-san, Sanada Yukimura, and Hosokawa Katsumoto, but went with Minamoto no Yoshitsune. It captures the punchy yet poetic feel of many Japanese names, and if given the choice, I'd always forge an alliance with the mighty swordsman Yoshitsune and his samurai. 6th place goes to Suryavarman. There's probably some unconscious bias here from envisioning him as the elephant-mounted hero from his eponymous campaign, but the name is iconic in and of itself, and wouldn't even feel out of place in a high fantasy epic as a powerful sorcerer. I recall at one point in the past his posthumous name of Parama Vishnuloka being appended, for what might have been the longest AI name, but that has since been removed. We're mostly not focusing on historical achievements in this list, but it certainly doesn't hurt that Suryavarman II built Angkor Wat. I don't expect such wonders in a normal skirmish match, but Suryavarman brings a cool name and a varied parade of elephants to the table. Before we get to the top 5, let's name 10 honorable mentions that could have made the list. Emperor Lothair I, Viracocha, Alauddin Hussein Shah, Charlemagne, Suleiman the Magnificent, Ashayakat, Admiral Yisun Shin, Samaratunga, Drogo de Hauteville, and Romulus Augustulus. 5th place goes to a Persian ruler, and was a difficult choice as many of the Persian names go hard, especially the Shahanshahs. I almost went with Shahanshah Kabad, named after the legendary King Kekobad, and whose own name would not be obscured even by the Fortress of Oblivion. But I had to go with Shahanshah Hormizd, the Persian King of Kings named for the Zoroastrian deity Ahura Mazda, and whose old Persian form is Aura Mazda, or basically Aura Master. A bit of that aura has admittedly been lost in translation to Hormizd, but it's still a commanding name as is, and friends and foes alike will take note when Shahanshah Hormizd musters the Chankers and Savaran. In 4th place is a Byzantine leader. Latin and Greek are both languages often considered elegant by English speakers, to the point that we have a long tradition of borrowing pieces of them when inventing new words, or when we just want to sound erudite. Belisarius and Anastasios are great choices, but I went with Emperor Tiberius III. A good title adds majesty to any name, and it's hard to think of an improvement upon Emperor. Tiberius itself is a regal name referring to the Tiber River in Italy, and reflecting the legacy of Rome on the Eastern Empire. And the suffix third is just the honey on the imperial cheesecake. Emperor Tiberius III and his troop of cataphracts will trample and tread their opponents underfoot. Now we're into the final 3, and next up we have a Maya Lord. The Mayas are a very mixed bag as far as how their names are rendered into English, and several of them would be strong contenders for a bottom 10 AI names list. But providing some redemption for the civilization and representation for Mesoamerica is my pick for 3rd place, King Stormy Sky. This has always been my favorite name from that civilization, and conjures up an image of a temperamental monarch that personifies the powerful forces of nature, almost like a more grounded Maya counterpart to the thunder gods Zeus or Thor. And if we wanted to lean into the mythological element, we might envision him wielding the lightning axe of Chak. King Stormy Sky will bring the thunder with his shock troops of lightning-quick eagle warriors, and will rain down a furious barrage of darts and arrows upon his enemies. In 2nd place, to give more than Tolkien representation to old Germanic names, we have a leader of the Goths. Alaric and Saurus would have been fine choices, but I went with General Theodimir. For Lord of the Rings fans, it's like getting the combined awesomeness of King Theoden and Boromir for the price of one, and without the latter's conspicuous vulnerability to archers. While General Theodimir is not a monarch himself, you may find that Gothdor needs no king after he researches anarchy. The general will make a fine friend or fearsome foe, and his fast training and surprisingly sustainable flood of huskarls and halberdiers can sack even the most prestigious cities. My award for 1st place goes to a name whose notoriety continues to echo through time. This man carved his sobriquet into history so successfully that I can't separate the two, or even begin to imagine considering the name independent of the fame of him who bore it. My top name from AoE2's AI roster is the peerless Genghis Khan, or more properly, Genghis Khan. As far as I'm concerned, Temucin's final form is the final boss of AoE2, and if it were up to me, the name could only be drawn under the highest difficulty setting, as defeating him would be the ultimate boast. Genghis Khan was already an Aura master in his day, and has since been further memorialized in song, in the world's largest equestrian statue, which I can highly recommend visiting, and even in the name of Mongolia's main airport. Like the dust clouds that signal the approach of his devastating hordes, the great Khan's reputation precedes himself. and his expert horsemen and siege engines can bring any enemy army to its knees. So those are my choices for the top 10 coolest sounding AI names in AoE 2, but which are your favorites? Let me know in the comments. That's all for today, and thanks for watching. This has been me listing legendary labels for lords and leaders. Till next time.